Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Cafe Bagheri. An early February winter day, beautiful weather on a Saturday in Dallas, Texas. And today we're adding another delicious kebab to our channel. You're gonna love this one. Stick around and let's make some Persian Shandiz Shishlik Kabob. Mwah! Let's start making our Shandiz Kabob. First thing we do, make sure our knives are sharp. Wipe the blade after honing it. There's a little dust of metal particles on there. You don't want it to get in your food. Cut our onion into thin stripes. Get a medium to large size bell pepper. Remove the core, seeds, and membranes, and just cut it into strips, similar to the strips of onion you just saw me make. Regular table salt, put about half a teaspoon all over this. This is not for flavoring, it's to force the peppers and onions to give out some of their juice and flavor. For about a minute to minute and a half, I'm going to squeeze and press the onions and pepper like so, while my sliced onion and bell pepper is sweating in this bowl. I'm going to work on the rack of lamb here. These lamb chops, there's about 9 of them on here, which is enough for 2 people. So the recipe I give you below in the comments section under this YouTube video is going to be for 2 people. I bought this from a Persian market here in Dallas, and there's an important point about what you purchase. When you buy this from your local American butcher shops, more times than not, they've already Frenched them, meaning they have removed the meat from between the rib bones, so it's already cleaned up for presentation purposes. That's not what we want for our Persian Shandiz Kabob. The meat between the rib bones has a lot of tasty fat and gristle. That's just wonderful when you char and kebab it, and you want those in. The Persian experience of eating this kebab includes holding the whole little baby tomahawk steak, if you will, and just going after those tasty bits along this bone. So the first thing is buy the rack of lamb on process like this. I have put this rack in the freezer for about 45 minutes to get it to firm up. That way it's easier to cut and work with. And here's what we do. We're going to get a knife and go in between each of these rib bones, but make sure that you leave the 1/2 inch or 1.5 centimeter of meat and fat on one side, like this. Check this out. So I'm cutting along one of the bones, making sure to leave the meat on one side. You see how the meat is on this side, and I cut close to the bone here. Then I'll get my paring knife and work this to separate this one guy. Here's the next important thing. A lot of people use a cleaver or their big knife to cut this and just slam it like that. First, it's dangerous, you could hurt yourself. Second, more times than not, you get bone chips left behind in your kebab, partially attached, and that could hurt the diner. It often has sharp edges, and that's not recommended. I have bought this little hacksaw, which is exclusively for use in the kitchen. I don't use it for hardware or backyard purposes. So this is a kitchen tool at this point. Look, right here where my cut ends, I go like this. There. Now I have separated that bone. Then the rest of the way, I use my big knife. If there is anything still attached, I'll just separate it. And then little extra pieces of meat and fat that are just too large and that will hang into the fire, you're gonna just cut them away and save them for another use. I'm gonna put them right here. This is it. This is what we're looking for. Gonna go right down again along this rib bone and go as far as we can cut. There. See? Then I'll get my knife. Little extra piece of meat is gonna be separated. There. At this point, I see this big piece of flank meat over these ribs that is making my work difficult to cut them apart. So I'm gonna separate this like so. I can use it for another purpose, such as kubide. This makes great kubide meat. Okay, I've done 4 of these lamb chops. It's a good time to explain the name and style of this kebab. This is Shandiz Shishlik Kabob. Shishlik is a Turkish term, I believe, that refers to grilling meat on skewers. So what they do with shishlik all the way around Turkey, Lebanon, in the Levant region, they separate this tender, tasty piece of the cross section of lamb tenderloin, basically. They put it on skewer and grill it, and that's shishlik kebab. In Shandiz, outside of city of Mashad, which is in the northeastern side of Iran, the style of Shandiz kebab started, which is basically grilling this meat, but leave the bone attached to it, kind of like a baby tomahawk. You've seen the big beef ribeye steak with that long cow rib bone attached to it. This is sort of a baby tomahawk lamb chop, and it has a good presentation, and you can hold it and eat it like so. All right, you're ready to marinate. Because of the tender cut of meat that you're dealing with, the purpose of marination is not to tenderize this meat. You just add in flavor. We're gonna get all of them and throw them over the sweating onion and bell peppers, 2 to 3 tablespoons of saffron solution onto the meat directly. You could do it separately in a different bowl, but this works too. And just make sure that all the lamb chops get a taste of this saffron, and then you're gonna put it aside about 15-20 minutes without adding the rest of your marinade. Get a couple of tablespoons of yogurt. Greek yogurt would be best. You can use non-fat if you want. And the rest is just salt and pepper. Remember, we used a little bit of salt in the onions and bell peppers to encourage them to give out some of their moisture. And here we're just going to add about a teaspoon of just regular table salt and about a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. There. And then I would, for good measure, I would put about half tablespoon of this saffron solution here as well. And then I'm going to mix the yogurt, salt, pepper, and saffron. There. This is basically your marinade other than onion and bell peppers. Meat has been sitting here for about 15 minutes with the saffron, and we had our onions and pepper sweating for longer than that. So I'm going to put the yogurt-based marinade over the meat. And then with gloves on, I'm going to just gently massage these lamb chops with the marinade, the yogurt marinade, and peppers and onions. Make sure it gets all over them, including on the bones and the gristle, meat and fat along the bone. That's very important. All right, the last item to add is a little bit of olive oil. I do about 2 to 3 tablespoons. It helps keeping the lamb chops moist when you cook them. We're going to cover this bowl and let the lamb chops marinate somewhere between 5 to 24 hours. So you could do this overnight and then grill them the next day. It's not a bad idea to take the bowl out of the fridge during the marination time and just give it a stir like this and then cover it again, put it back in the fridge. Okay, our lamb chops have been marinating a little over 4 hours. We're ready to grill them. I'm going to let them come to room temperature here on the side while I put the vegetables on the skewer. We have Roma tomatoes that I'm going to grill with our kebab. So some kind of pepper, not always spicy hot peppers, are customary for grilling with your Persian kebabs. I love the taste of jalapeno peppers. In North America, they're very common, but they're usually too spicy for me now. What I do is I cut them open and remove the membranes and seeds from inside, and then I boil them in hot water for about 45 seconds to a minute, and then immediately put them in an ice water bath and blanch them. I get these little spears of red bell pepper or any other kind of vegetable you have. I just insert them in here. You can put a piece of lamb or beef fat or a slice of bacon if you eat bacon. Our lamb chops are at room temperature now, almost. Remove all the peppers and sliced onions from them so I can start putting them on skewers. All right, this is our lamb chops out of the marinade, and now we're ready to put them on skewer. Remember the little strip of meat that I told you you should leave on one side of the ribs? That's what we use to pierce our skewer through, like so. Here it is. Look at that. And you want to make sure that it's kind of balanced, so the weight on the right and left side should kind of sort of equal, so it won't tip your or turn your skewer on the fire, and it will have a balance. So you kind of watch that for each and every one of these lamb chops, and you should be fine. So go like that. One thing to mention about these lamb chops, this piece of meat, the business end of it, the kebab on this end, a lot of people use a mallet to further flatten and tenderize the meat, and it becomes a little bigger and has better presentation. I don't do that because I'm happy with the size of these, and they don't really, this cut of meat doesn't need any tenderizing, and it stays on the skewer better if you don't flatten it like that. So, but if you want to do that, certainly you can get a meat mallet and pound the steak part to make it a little bigger. All right, our meat is skewered and ready to go with vegetables on skewer as well. I'm gonna make a basting sauce. You've seen me make several versions of a basting sauce to go on kebab. This one, and I will put recipe for this version under, and literally hundreds of versions of this particular sauce exists. Anybody who makes kebab puts together some butter, saffron, and some sort of acid and other flavors, other aromatics, and all good. This is one of my 3 or 4 versions of a kebab basting sauce. I put a third of a cup of chicken broth. You can use beef broth or vegetable broth if you're vegan. And there was 3 tablespoons of butter. I put a little bit of saffron solution. Again, the recipe is below. Just get that aroma. A little bit of salt as well, because chicken and beef broth usually doesn't have any salt. So once the butter is melted and everything's mixed, you really go the lowest possible because you don't want to boil this. Another reason for not boiling this is when you add your sour lime or lemon, you really don't want to boil it. Acidic citrus gets a little bitter when you boil it in liquid. So we're just gonna turn off the heat basically and add our little bit of acid. So this was probably a total of, I would say, a tablespoon or maybe tablespoon and a half. Again, I'll put this in the recipe under. So this basting sauce is ready to go on the kebab when we go outside. Meat and vegetables ready. I'm still finalizing my charcoal fire. You have to start preparing your fire if you're doing charcoal about 45 minutes to an hour before you actually grill. So here, I'm using lump charcoal. You can use briquettes. As you can see, you want to basically reduce all of these to red embers, and then we will spread them and start grilling. But believe it or not, that's all we need. So I like this grill because it allows me to adjust the distance between the fire and my food. So I'm gonna make sure everything's hot, and then I will get the vegetables on there. See, this is where I make the final adjustment to make sure everything's on hot fire, right here, there. And then thankfully I only have 2 skewers, so I don't have to worry about a lot of space on here. There you go. And then I start with this being closest. You can have a piece of cardboard or a hand fan to make sure that your fire stays hot, the hottest possible level. I use an electric fan, which is more convenient. As you can see, so you go a total of, if your fire is very hot, which this is right now, very close to the food, between 8 to 12 minutes is all the meat needs. And then, of course, the vegetable will quickly start cooking. Now I'm gonna start basting it, like so. The vegetable needs some of that basting sauce first. For the meat, we wait till right at the end. All right, so here, look at that, see? We're bringing it close. And I'm gonna make sure that we get some fire. The good thing with charcoal is if you haven't placed the meat on your skewer exactly in the fire zone, in the heat zone, you can move some of the charcoal under it. In Western culture, French cooking, continental or North American, medium to medium rare is customary. Most people don't want it well done. But in Iran and Middle East, grilled meats, including this one, the lamb chops, are usually well done. We don't like it that way. So somewhere around 7 to 8 minutes, you're done. And inside of it is kind of pink towards brown, and that means it's ready to go. See what I mean about the balance? If you don't put the skewer exactly in the center of gravity for each piece, then it's gonna start tipping one way or the other. Look at that, doesn't that look beautiful? There, this one's almost done. I would say another minute and we are ready to go. By the way, I did apply the basting sauce on the lamb chops a couple of minutes ago, but I forgot to film it for you. Shandiz kebab is ready. Look at this, see? This is what I was talking about. This is now a nice, juicy, medium rare or medium, right there. I'm gonna use a couple of pieces of flatbread to get these off without burning myself. And then of course, you take care to place them nicely. Actually, they're not too hot. So as I told you, this recipe is for 2 average appetites. There. Oh my, ain't that birdie? There. Okay, what we're gonna do is this. There. Of course, you always wanna clean up your plate for presentation. You've seen me always serve kebab, Persian kebabs with Persian rice, Persian saffron rice usually, and a crispy salad. Shirazi is usually the one, my go-to. Sometimes I'll do 2 or 3 kinds of salad. This is one of the Persian kebabs that I would put on a Persian royal feast spread. Like I said, I don't have any rice with this because the way I eat it, I would get a piece of flatbread and put some touristy and pickles and some scallion or whatever herbs you have, and then put a piece of that steak on your bread and eat it, or just do it like a lollipop, you know, hold it and eat it like that. So yes, here it is, our Persian Shandiz Shishlik Kabob. This is a lamb chop done the Persian way. I want you to make this kebab and show me what you've done. You're gonna love this. Send me your pictures on Instagram or tag me on your stories and posts at Cafe Bagheri. I appreciate it if you shared my video with your friends and family on Facebook and elsewhere. Thanks again for being here. If you liked what you saw here, please like below this video. And on the outer chance that you're not a subscriber of this channel, I would appreciate it if you subscribe and hit that little bell button so you receive notifications when new delicious stuff happens here. I can't wait to eat this Shandiz kebab, these lamb chops, as I know my producer is waiting as well. And please come back here to see us at Cafe Bagheri for another delicious video. Thank you. Oh, lollipop. Oh, look, check this out. Come over here. I'm gonna test this, but see this right here? So in Dallas, Texas, what you do is you get a Mexican beer, which we have a lot of here, before, and then look, see right here? And then of course this little piece of steak. And then you wash it down. And oh, if you noticed the brown Cafe Bagheri apron, and if you want one, go to Cafe Bagheri and check out our merch shop, and you're gonna find some great deals. You need a Cafe Bagheri apron, don't you?